So I went down a bit of a rabbit hole. I thought I'd have a go at making a traditional kawaii lure, like the old school Maoris used to make. So I started off, I thought I'd make a bone-backed one with just some paua on it, just like the old school ones that had sort of wood, and then they had a paua shell inlay, and then a bone spike or whatever, bone hook. So I had a go at that, and then I noticed that they had holes drilled in a lot of the shafts of the hook to attach them. This one I've got a hole drilled in the main body of it, and then a shaft on the hook, and then the shaft sticking into the hole in the bone back, and then I've got a hole in the shaft of the hook to actually help attach it as well. And then I've got a few grooves around it. You can see, if you go on Google Images and look up traditional Maori fishing lures, yeah, you'll see they're really intricately carved, but when they're, with all these little grooves and stuff around there, and when you look at how they lash, they're not actually lashed like really flashy, they're just lashed on as best they can, sort of just whatever will do to hold. It doesn't matter about like how they look or anything. So yeah, that was my first attempt, and then I saw these other ones that are made completely out of like paua shell, with a paua shell spike and stuff. So I had to go at that, and it's kind of weird. I don't know how to attach them because the pieces of paua shell you use aren't actually like symmetrical. They're kind of triangle and stuff. But yeah, with a few like notches and stuff on the paua shell, I was able to lash that on really strong, and the shell actually gives a bit of a sharper point than the bone, which was quite interesting. But the paua shell was quite brittle, and then I found these shells, and they're a little bit thicker than the paua shell, so I had to go with them, and I just made one of these. Same sort of a deal with the but I used the shell for the spike and for the main body of it, and this is probably one that turned out one of the best. And yeah, I've got a few grooves in it to help lash it on. It hasn't got a like hole in it or nothing, it's just lashed on there, and it's really on pretty strong, and it's pretty sharp as well. And yeah, some of them you could see they must have drilled a small hole in the top and then lashed around it. So that's what I was going to have a go at doing later on. But then you see, once they graduated from those ones, they sort of went to trolling lures like this. They'd had a hook down there, and yeah, they'd trawl that along with a few bits of paua shell on it. I still got to find the right size hook I want to put on there. And I'll finish that off, give it a bit more of a sand down and a shape. I had to go at the old bone hook as well, and that's not too bad as a one piece cow bone, but you can see how back in the day, Jesus, these guys must have been onto it as to actually get these things in the right shape with the tools that they had. And you look at them when they're lashing it, it's not lashed like in a really symmetrical way, it's just lashed whichever way they could do to make it strong. And a few other questions I sort of figured out along the way, like these guys must have been onto it. I wonder if the old school Maoris had some glue that they used to use. Like, I know the Aborigines in Australia had like the Spinifex glue. I wonder if we had something similar to help us with stuff like this, to just attach these hooks and stuff. That one's just lashed on there. There's no like a hole in the shaft of the hook or hole in here. I've just lashed it on, and it's lashed on, and it's actually pretty strong. Surprised how strong it is. But just finding the right shapes, finding the right shell, finding the right piece of bone must have been, you can see why these old school fishermen must have been like really like skilled, and it was a big thing to pass down their crafts to the younger generation, or even leaving their bones to be turned into fish hooks. So yeah, cheers everyone. Just a rabbit hole I went down. Please support your local grass vegetable and producers as much as possible, and have a good one. Cheers.